and welcome to another episode of The Standings, where we review the sports standings, except we're sitting. I'm Daniel, and I'm, of course, joined by Morgan and Cameron today. On a scale of 1 to 10, rate your free agency experience so far.
Right now, I'm giving it a solid 7. Free agency didn't even start yet, and here we are seeing so many posts about it. It's so exciting, and I'm like, I did not expect some of these picks here.
It's been a solid 8. Bias Steelers, we got DK Metcalf. That's super exciting. But also, the Vikings having a really underrated offseason so far, and the Bears, but we'll get to all that later on.
I have to disagree. Well, I think it's a 3 so far. I'm so uninterested in the players that have been mentioned so far, and we're going to mention a lot of them this episode that are going to get signed, so hopefully that 3 becomes a 7 or an 8 for me. But I'm looking forward to, there's a new episode of Invincible tomorrow, so we're looking forward to that rather than free agency so far. Let's move into our first topic. Let's talk about NFL free agency. Which player is the player to watch out for in free agency without mentioning a quarterback or maybe briefly covering it?
I'm not going a quarterback here. I'm talking young. I'm talking kind of unexpected. I'm taking Tevin Jenkins. I want to know where he's going to end up. 27 years old, 6'6", offensive lineman. What is going on there with you? He gets injured. That's his issue. He is injury prone. He needs a good team to help boost him up. And honestly, the Bears don't really seem like the place for him. He was 39th overall, drafted in the 2021 draft there. And he hasn't done too much with the Bears, but I think he needs to go to a better team. I predict he's going to the Bengals after this.
Well, I'm going to have to go with Cooper Kupp, who is rumored to get released, and I think he actually just got released today. They said they're releasing him tomorrow, which they also took his number away and all that. It's whatever. Puka took his number away, I should say. But Cooper Kupp is going to be an X factor on any team. He is a Triple Crown winner, Super Bowl MVP, having arguably the greatest wide receiver season ever. I know he's old, but he's still got a lot left in the tank.
I'll give you a Pro Bowl tight end, Evan Ingram, who is still out there, and the Jags have not re-signed him. He's still out on the market. He had a great year with the Jags, finally, when he's healthy and he's going. We talk about a lot of injury-riddled players, and you mentioned Tevin Jenkins. It's hard for these teams to attach themselves to players when they've been injured for so long. So, 2 players that I like are J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb, who have been injured in their careers, but they have such a high ceiling. If they go to a team like the Buccaneers and pair with Bucky Irving, who's developing, it could be a dynamic duo. And other receivers, you talk about Cooper Kupp, there's Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. It's going to be very interesting to see where these older receivers go and how they fit into these teams, because there's not a lot of receiver ones on teams right now. So they can fit into any team, especially one of them that I like is Keenan Allen. He is a reception machine. He can get you downfield. He can be the leader in that offense.
I don't know about Keenan Allen. This year, he really showed his age. And I will say, you're probably better off taking Amari Cooper over Keenan Allen right now.
We'll have to see. Let's move into our next topic, that being Brad Marchand to the Panthers. My question to both of you is, how does this move boost the Panthers, and what does it say about the Bruins moving forward?
So we all expect this move to boost up the Panthers, but he practiced with the Panthers for the first time on Friday, and everyone just said it was different. They didn't say it was good. They didn't say it was bad. It was just different. And NHL writer Emil Benjamin says it was just jarring to see property of Florida written on him. It just isn't something you're expecting to see. He spent 17 seasons in Boston. Last season he had 61 games and he had 47 points, 21 goals, 26 assists, and 5 of his goals were game winners. So the Panthers obviously want to win a Stanley Cup. That's most teams' goals, but having him on the team will really boost them up there. And he's only won 1 Stanley Cup back in 2011. But this won't be an easy transition for anybody. He has a deep love and appreciation for Boston, so moving him down to Florida is just going to be a little shaky, a little hard. When you're talking about the Bruins' point of it, let's take a look at the reasoning behind why they traded him. His 8-year contract was just about to end, and it had a $6.125 million salary cap on it. On July 1st, 2025, he would have become an unrestricted free agent, and the Bruins wanted to avoid this, hence trading him to the Panthers. The trade was for a conditional second-round pick in the 2027 draft, and the condition is if it will move to a first-round pick in 2027 or 2028 if the Panthers win 2 postseason games with Marchand playing at least 50% of these games. So from the Bruins standpoint, yeah, you need to get rid of your older players, but it kind of causes a rift between the fans, the fan base, and even some of the players itself.
Morgan, you really covered basically everything I really wanted to say, but the main thing is you got to feel for the Bruins fans right now. He's on one of the greatest regular season teams of all time, I should say. Going to the team that bounced them twice. Like, I can't imagine how being a Bruins fan must feel. It must be like a Yankees fan right now with Juan Soto going to the Mets. It's just horrible. I can't believe that they would do this to their fans, and having one of their franchise players that everybody loves just going to a rival right now in the playoffs at least is just heartbreaking.
It's like a KD to the Warriors move, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The Panthers now should undoubtedly be the favorite to win the cup with this move. And now we see in all leagues across sports is aggression is getting rewarded. We see it with the Eagles and Howie Roseman goes out and gets Saquon Barkley. Look, you got rewarded with that championship. So now they have a line with Marchand, Bennett, and Kachuk. This is going to be one of the best lines in hockey, and if everyone stays healthy, could be unstoppable heading into the playoffs. He's joining stars like Alexander Barkov and Sam Reinhart. This team is stacked, and we've never seen something like this before where a team's constantly been aggressive throughout seasons, and I think that has to do with money floating around and everything, but when we look at the Bruins' perspective, on the other flip side of this, it's that they're clearly rebuilding and becoming a fresh new team, getting rid of those old players, and I have to agree with this move. This is a good move for the Bruins to start fresh and start new, and as a Penguins fan, both of us can agree that this hasn't happened yet. They haven't moved off their old stars, so this is good for the Bruins because they get a fresh restart, and they might not even need a full rebuild because you just mentioned they just had that amazing season. So if you do kind of a half rebuild where you're bringing in younger guys and maybe you even bring in more vets, you could be a contender again. This is no problem for me.
You're still in a little bit of contention here. And you had that season 2 years ago. I still think you keep that window open and you be aggressive. You be that aggressive team. You trade away your picks. You don't just blow it up. I think I don't agree with the move, but pressure's on Florida now. If Florida doesn't win, this move looks hilarious to everybody else.
It is on Florida, and for the Bruins moving forward, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, because when you get rid of a player like that, there has to be stuff that we hadn't seen, stuff that's behind closed doors. We're going to head to a commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
Hi everyone, I'm Akila Wallace. I'm an anchor for Royal Studios. Right now, I'm behind the scenes of The Standing. You can find me on the Scranton Scope every Thursday. We talk about movies, music, and about events and spots in our area that you can pop up to and have a good time. Back to The Standing.
Welcome back from the break. We're going to talk about the Bengals, who recently franchised T. Higgins. A very interesting move. My question to both of you is, should T. Higgins refuse to play under the tag?
No, I think he should continue under the tag, and I think he will continue to play under the tag. Teams have one franchise tag per offseason, and they decided to use it on him 2 seasons in a row here. They're really looking for a long-term with him, and I say if they don't get a long-term contract with T. Higgins, he'll just end up being traded anyway, but might as well take this franchise tag, and if he takes this, he'll be making $26.2 million for the 2025 season, so I think just go for it.
I think that he should refuse to play. I think that you've been promised the world by this organization, and they continue to fail you. And they're even doing it with Jamar right now. Hey, we're going to give you the highest paid contract in NFL history. Guess what? Myles Garrett just got that without being a quarterback, and now you have to pay that, and paying 2 receivers over $30 million a year is unsustainable, especially with a horrible defense. T. Higgins, just get out, man. Just don't even play. Request a trade already. Just do something. It's horrible what they're doing to you.
I agree that he needs to refuse to play, but I will disagree that the Bengals should not re-sign him. Yes, when healthy, T. Higgins is a number 1 receiver on about a dozen teams. We mentioned all these receivers that are in free agency. They're in free agency for a reason. T. Higgins is better than all of those players, and I think we'd all agree with that here. He should refuse because his value is better than that. And when we look at this, Higgins played before all these trades happened, and this would be the first time that this is a tough situation for the Bengals because now they've franchise tagged him twice, and franchise tagging him twice is unbelievable. We saw he went to social media before the trade even happened and said that he'll be the first one to break the news. And that was the first sign to me that he had negative thoughts going into this, and now he has negative thoughts coming out of it, I'm sure. So there's no reason not to pay him, as Sam Hubbard just retired, and I believe that they were going to give him a good contract. He just retired, and I believe he was the 3rd best on the team. He's your third best player on the team, T. Higgins is, and you need to pay him. He deserves the pay. He has value on that team.
It's just, I can't agree. The Bengals need to move on from Jamar or T. Paying 2 receivers that amount of money is unsustainable, especially with a suspect defense. Letting Jesse Bates go. Releasing Von Bell, which I know eventually came back. Like, you let a relatively solid defense that handled Mahomes to get you to the playoffs and get you to the Super Bowl even, and you let that whole defense crumble. You fire Lou, another thing I don't agree with. It's just unsustainable. You have Joe Burrow. You have a top 5 quarterback in the league. He can survive without T. Higgins. He can survive without Jamar Chase. Pick one.
I will totally agree with that. And the fact, it is unsustainable. I just wish there was another guy you had to pay. And when there's not another guy that you have to pay, I believe you try and find a short-term contract that has a lot of money. If they can do that, that's the best case scenario for them. But I absolutely agree with you. Getting rid of Jesse Bates and getting rid of Von Bell, that's the defense that stopped Mahomes. And now you're in a situation that your team hasn't made the playoffs, and now you have 2 receivers that need to get paid, and of course you chose one over the other because he has a relationship with the quarterback and he's had better numbers. But now you have a guy who, like I said, could be a number 1 option on about a dozen teams. This is devastating.
Don't even forget Hendrickson. You can't pay Hendrickson and T. This is just, they put themselves in this situation, and if they paid him when he deserved to get paid, you would pay him probably 25 maybe, a little less, and you would be able to say, all right, Hendrickson, we can afford you. I mean, with Myles Garrett contract, you probably couldn't have, but you can afford Chase. If you did that one, he was due. It's just malpractice from their GM and their owner.
It's positional value, too, and I guess they prioritize the receiver over the defensive end, where in my eyes, I see it as the quarterback and then the defensive end right under it, whereas they might not see that. So it's very confusing, and they kind of dug themselves a hole here, where if you do re-sign him, and it is a long-term contract, you could end up in very bad cap space.
Do what the Bills are doing. Pay your guys early so you don't owe them more. Greg Rousseau just got a really nice contract, but it's like, this is exactly what he's worth, but he still has potential to get better. The Bills are the blueprint for what you have to do. Extend early and often.
Let's move into our next topic. Let's talk about the quarterback carousel that's been going on so far. I'm going to have you all pick one guy and talk about why that was your favorite move in free agency so far.
So, starting out, I'm not going to start with the starting QB. I'm talking backup QBs here. I'm talking about Zach Wilson to the Dolphins. Congratulations, Miami. You just paid a man millions of dollars to lay on the beach and talk to moms. How does it feel? But actually, was Zach Wilson the right move for Miami? I'm going to say yes. And you may not think so. You may have a lot of doubt in Zach Wilson. But at least Miami has a backup quarterback. At least you know his name. Whether it be good or for bad, Zach Wilson is there, and he just needs to learn to pick up where Tua left off. Though he may not have played a full season with the Jets or the Broncos, we know. He's played on 3 teams, Miami being the 3rd now, and you haven't really seen a lot from him. You're not sure what he's going to bring to the table, and that's what makes him so interesting. He's mobile. He could keep up with Miami's offense. And looking at his stats here from 2021 to 2023, he had 6,293 yards, 23 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, and he had 57% completed passes. Is that the greatest stats you've ever seen in the world? No. It's not, but he is a backup quarterback situation that Miami needs to help boost them up, and it's honestly the best thing that probably could have came for them right now. And he could have been developing new skills. We never know what happened in that season when he was with the Broncos, when we didn't really see a lot from him. And when he was playing for the Jets, last season he played there, before he was benched, he was 5-2. He wasn't doing completely terrible. And if people can reinvent themselves from the Jets like Sam Darnold did, who says Zach Wilson can't? So there's no doubt that Zach Wilson is an iffy player, but it's what Miami needs right now, and we'll see how he fits in with this team.
I think also this move is kind of reminiscent of what the Niners are when they picked Lance, obviously, but they feel like they had Zach Wilson really high. I mean, the whole Dolphins staff is all Niners staff,
Exactly,
basically.
yes.
So it's like, maybe they really wanted Zach Wilson, but to get to my quarterback, Daniel Jones. I know it sounds funny, but he goes to the Colts where Anthony Richardson has looked horrible. He has hovering around a 50% completion percentage. Horrible. He has potential. And Daniel Jones proved that he can be a relatively decent starter in the league, and he's fighting for that spot. And Anthony Richardson might even be on the move based off this move.
Another proven starter, you want to talk about Sam Darnold to Seattle. This is a very interesting move. He gets the Baker deal. He gets 3 years, $100 million. It's the exact contract that Baker got. I think Baker got 99. But this is a short-term contract for a player that, when protected, has a high upside. And we don't know if Sam Darnold performed well because it was of Kevin O'Connell or it was his talent that he had. Seattle was 10-7 last season and lost the tiebreaker to the Rams to get in the playoffs. Then the Rams went on to have only a game-winning drive away from winning against the Eagles. We saw an easy schedule from Seattle, but I think they do have a lot of upside on this team. Unfortunately, this comes at the timing of when they just lost DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the team, but they just signed MVS in free agency, and Jackson Smith-Njigba now has to be the number one on that team. And we don't know his full potential yet because of the guys that were there, like Metcalf and Lockett, but we'll have to see. If Darnold is protected on this team, if they can get that offensive line right, this might be a very good team heading into the season.
If they get the offensive line right. Their offensive line was ranked 31st in the league. So, and get rid of the learn zero blitz, that whole division. Sam Darnold struggled against zero blitz, and against the Lions, and even in the playoffs. It was just horrible what he saw ghost, is basically what I'm saying.
It could end up being a Jets situation where he heads in and he has a bad offensive line and they end up going and drafting receivers. He heads in and he's got nothing. He has nothing to work with. So this has high upside and it also has a very low downside.
That move doesn't make any sense in terms of you trading a starter that went to the playoffs last year, had the chance to make the playoffs, and he played as best as he could behind a horrible offensive line when Sam Darnold is known to struggle. And Kevin O'Connell is an offensive genius, and you're going from an offensive genius head coach to a defensive-minded head coach. I don't see the fit here.
Let's go right into our commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
Hi everybody, I'm Nico Mileta. I'm an anchor for Royal Studios. You can catch me every Friday on Royals Weekly. We talk about different things going on around campus, the successes of our student athletes, and other Royals Weekly exclusive things that you have to tune in to see. So I hope to see you there, and I'll send you back to the standings.
Welcome back from the break. Let's talk about Myles Garrett. Just signed a massive contract, $40 million a year, and $123 million guaranteed. Let's talk about it. Was this a good move for the Browns?
So this deal sparked some controversy here. Obviously, a lot of people are like, yes or no, or yes or no. So I'm going to say this move was smart for the Browns. Garrett is a generational talent. He is dominant on the field. He is a leader in the locker room. He creates team culture, and that's somebody that the Browns need on their team. I know there is a lot of money at stake here, but you obviously need to look at both sides of the stake. So the Browns are all in with Garrett. They want him long term. This contract has a no trade clause, which is one of the most important parts because they are going in with Garrett. I know the Browns aren't magically about to win a Super Bowl because they gave him so much money and now they're just going to play and now they're suddenly magically good. That's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen. But in the sense that he is going to build up the defense for the future, and he's going to be a leader. That's what they need. Garrett is going to be a Hall of Famer. You want this man on your team. You don't want to lose him to other teams. Yes, you want to see him succeed, but you need him right now for your team to be built up. And though Garrett said he wanted to win, he didn't say in what way, and he basically just won with all this money that he got from the team. But before he signed this contract, he actually wanted a trade and requested a meeting with the team's owner, but the owner declined, and then this contract was written up and signed. But the Browns have a pretty loyal fan base. They're being beat down all the time. They're being hated on, and Garrett just gives them that shining light that the Browns just need.
I don't think they need it. I personally don't think they need it, but I'm a Steelers fan. I think they deserve everything that came to them. Everybody felt bad for them, and then you get what you deserve with Deshaun Watson. But that's another conversation. I don't agree with this signing. You have the second overall pick in the draft. You have an asset you can move to get multiple first-round picks and maybe even an elite player. This deal doesn't make sense long term. Garrett wanted out, and he only took this because this is the highest contract for non-quarterback in NFL history. This move is just baffling, especially when he said he wanted to win. He went back on his word because money talks, but this no-trade clause definitely was added as a clause from the ownership, not from Myles Garrett. I don't think he agreed to that. I mean, he obviously agreed to it, but I don't think he went into this contract thinking, yeah, I'm going to take this no trade clause. They're probably like, we'll throw in an extra $500 million just so you take this. It's just, I don't agree with this move whatsoever. I get he's a defensive player of the year, which he probably shouldn't have won. But he just doesn't show up during the holidays. November on, last year he had no sacks. It's just horrible.
I mean, like, not even to cut you off real quick, but he had second in the league with sacks. He had 14 sacks last year, and he's the first player to have 100 sacks before his 29th birthday. So he's not terrible as you're making him
No,
seem.
I am not making him seem horrible, but I want to show up. I want somebody to show up during the holidays, November, December. Like, that's the most important time for you to show up. He hasn't done that the past 2 years.
When we look at this, he completely resets the defensive end market now. He resets it for all of the athletes that are going to be in here. And like you mentioned before, he wanted to be traded by any means necessary. And like you said, money talks. So he's back. And for Micah Parsons now, he's going to be negotiating with his deal with the Cowboys. And he's going to be saying, I want something that's near that Myles Garrett deal. Max Crosby just signed for $30 million a year, and he reset the market. So now we're looking at this defensive end market might be $20 million a year now, starting at $20 million a year just for an average player to sign. And the Browns are likely conflicted because they got their guy back and he's their franchise guy, but at what cost? Now you're paying Watson and Myles Garrett $90 million a year? That's going to eat up your cap and you're not going to be able to sign any other players. So it seems like he didn't even care about winning either. He just wanted all the money that he could get, or he wanted to go to a contender.
I think he was also under probably the promise of Deshaun getting released after next year. They're going to take the $40 million cap hit, and they're just going to say, all right, we messed up. Get Deshaun out of here. We'll get your guy. We'll take Shadur. We'll take Cam Ward, and you'll have your future there.
Or could be Kirk Cousins who comes in. He's been rumored to the Browns quite often lately, and that's interesting to me because he's also an aging quarterback who just showed his decline, and they're going to go after him now. I don't think the Browns know what they're doing. I don't think they have knew what they were doing for a long time now.
Have to agree.
Let's move into our next topic, that being DK Metcalf signing a 5-year, $150 million with the Steelers. He gets traded there. Is DK the new standard pay for receivers?
Let me go first.
You got this.
As a Steelers fan, I think I deserve this.
Okay, go for it.
I finally have something to talk about of joy.
You got it.
So, this is a phenomenal move for a second-round pick for a X-factor receiver on the field. I know he has attitude problems. They're probably going to be, Pickens and DK are probably going to be fighting a corner 50 yards down the line of scrimmage after we run the ball for 3 yards. But this is a culture signing. Tomlin wants to go punch somebody in the teeth, and I love this for the team. And this also really messes over the Bengals, because now DK resets the market, and Bengals have to pay T and Jamar. This is a chess move by the front office.
It also just gives, like, really good, like, old Steelers vibes. Like, looking back, like, you're looking at, like, Ben Roethlisberger era, and now you're looking at this, and you're like, this is a Steelers team this is the culture. This is the Steelers culture. This is something great for the Steelers. I'm really excited to watch them play this season.
So, now that DK's back, he reunites with Russell Wilson temporarily, because we believe that Russ might be out, and we'll go into that a little bit. But DK has to be the standard now, unless the Steelers saw potential that other teams didn't. But I imagine other teams were bidding for DK because of the potential that the media serves. So, it's interesting because DK initially said he wants to go to a warm weather city, and money talks, so now he's there. And that's kind of the theme of this show, is that now that the cap space has opened up even more, guys are getting their money, and they don't care where they go. Myles Garrett doesn't care if he stays with the Browns. DK doesn't care if he stays in a cold weather city. And $30 million for a receiver is a lot. And like you said with T. Higgins, that is going to be a lot. So if the Bengals end up paying Jamar, T, and Joe Burrow, that's $120 million of your 290 in cap space, or 390. I'm not sure. I might have messed up the number there, but I'm not sure. But it's a lot of money. You have 52 players on your roster you need to pay. And DK to the Steelers seems like a very smart move if they want to go in that direction. But they're missing one key piece, the most important position, the quarterback.
It's really interesting here with the quarterback situation because the Steelers said they wanted to prioritize Justin Fields, and then you see him getting signed to the Jets 5 days later. What's going on there? What's happening? They did not want to stay with Russell Wilson, yet here we are. And if you're looking up Russell Wilson, you're saying, where is he going? That's the beauty about free agency. There's like 7 different teams that they say he's going to. They're like, he's going to the NFC, he's staying in the AFC, whatever. He's going everywhere, he's staying everywhere. It's a big what if. And that's a really interesting part about Russell Wilson. What are you going to do with him?
And to talk about Justin Fields for a second, good for him. He deserved what he got. Mm-hmm. He was promised a starting role in Pittsburgh, and that got taken away for a really old, washed quarterback that goes by the name of Russell Wilson. And we're probably going to continue on the trend of having a really old, washed quarterback take away an opportunity from a young quarterback known as Aaron Rodgers that we are probably going to end up signing in his darkness retreat on whenever he's done with that.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers does what he usually does and is going to make a whole day for himself, similar to what we saw with Jerry Jones. There's just some guys that are just full of themselves, and I think Aaron Rodgers is one of those. He is going to make it all about him. He's going to wait till the very last minute to sign with the Steelers, just like he has every time. With Russell Wilson, I saw a report today by Albert Breer saying that there might be a strained relationship between the Steelers and Russ if this Aaron Rodgers deal doesn't happen. So they could be in a very bad situation if this doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah, the main thing that I've been seeing is the Titans are really interested in Russell Wilson right now, which opens up the door for me to be like, get Will Levis for like a 6th-round pick, Steelers. I mean, I know he's horrible, but if he sits behind Rodgers for a year, we might have something here, potentially.
It's funny because I actually mentioned the Titans in my notes for somewhere that Russ could go because they are missing a quarterback right now. So that might be a perfect fit, but a lot of the teams have already signed quarterbacks. So Russ might end up with his backup job that he doesn't even want. And same with Rodgers. If he doesn't end up on the Steelers and the Giants end up saying, hey, we want to go and draft a quarterback, it can end up being a bad situation for the both of them. But it'd be hard to say that both of these guys who are going to be future Hall of Famers won't end up with a job heading into the season.
Yeah, just really interesting to see because you never know what's going to happen. And with these older players, a lot of teams you're starting to notice they want to build up young. But the team that doesn't want to build up young is Pete Carroll right now with the Raiders. He just wants to go all in. That's why he was like, I'm getting Geno Smith back on my team. We played together and we're bringing it back. So that's what we see there.
Geno Smith is a high-end talent too. He's led his teams to the playoffs and he's been a statistically good player. So through this move, I'm not sure where Pete Carroll's going with it, but we'll have to see because that division is so competitive. And I don't think he believes that he can win the division, but I think he believes that Geno might be a stepping stone for their next quarterback.
Exactly.
That's it for the standings.
Thank you for watching the standings.
Make sure to check out our other Royal Studios productions.
Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed.
See you next time.